Let's carry on with second language acquisition. Today we'll talk about interlanguage in context. Language learning is not something which may happen in isolation. Rather, it happens in a context. One of the important premises regarding second language acquisition is, especially the sociolinguistic perspectives on SLA, believe that learning do not happen in isolation or without a context. It happens in a certain context where various external variables contribute to the learning of a second language. That is why we could see variation in the learning of various individuals, because some individuals might be more fluent than others. This variation in language learning is also obvious in interlanguages. For example, we could see that people during the course of their language learning might use the same form for various functions, or the same function may be performed by various forms. If you look at this slide, you will find that the function of negative is being represented by both no and not. Examples in front of you are, my husband not here, no English. These are the typical examples of an interlanguage, and you see the function of not is being performed by both the word not and no. This variation in interlanguage is non-systematic in the beginning, but gradually, as people get used to it, this becomes systematic. In this way, we could say that variation is the initial step of learning, which later on gradually develops into a native-like or near-native proficiency or language use. This systematic variation, which develops later on or may initiate from the beginning, may be based on some linguistic facts, or at the same time it may be sociolinguistically based. Another approach in this regard is social interactional approach, which believes that learning is not an intra-psychological phenomena. It is also not situated in one's psychology only or cognition. Rather, it is embedded in some socio-cultural facts in which a person lives in. It is also adaptive to a set of resources embodied in social interaction. So social interaction and social realities are few of those factors which are responsible for learning a language or developing an interlanguage. So learning, or the process of learning, cannot be understood without understanding these socio-cultural factors. Isolated grammaticality or judgments may lead to a half knowledge or little knowledge according to this approach. According to this social interaction approach, understanding the phenomena of second language learning needs understanding the socio-cultural phenomena which are also responsible for it. The next topic is interlanguage pragmatics. In interlanguage pragmatics, we could understand that learning a language is not reduced only to learning linguistic forms. Rather, it includes learning the suitable ways to use that language. If you do not learn those suitable ways or appropriate ways to use a language, then the learning would not be enough to carry on communication in that language. In that way, this would may be considered as a failure. Much of the work in interlanguage pragmatics is associated with the knowledge of speech acts. And the knowledge of speech acts may be crucial in learning intercultural pragmatics, because these speech acts may vary from context to context or culture to culture. And their knowledge is very important in the domain of second language learning, because if you do not understand the proper functions or the ways of performing certain speech acts in a second language, you might lead to a pragmatic or communication failure. And this failure could be dangerous for overall communication, because this might also be taken as a defect in the personality. And these pragmatic failures are treated more seriously by many native speakers or the users of the target language. Therefore, any study in interlanguage should also consider those socio-cultural factors in which that interlanguage develops.